Hey guys, today we are checking out the GTX 1050 Ti. Specifically, it is the iGamer edition from Colorful. Recently, we did a few videos using the GT 1030 and I got so many comments about trying out this graphics card. So when GearBest reached out to us, I asked if we could do a video on the GTX 1050 Ti and they came through and sent us this card from Colorful. All the links down below in the description. Colorful is huge in China, but not that well known over here in Australia, so let's find out what this graphics card has to offer. In the box we find the graphics card, a CD with drivers and some overclocking and monitoring software. There are also some instructions and a PCI Express power adapter in case your power supply doesn't have one. This iGamer edition is marketed as more of a premium product, especially the cooling system is really well done. We have two large 90mm fans and also two heat pipes. We will check out cooling performance and fan noise later in the video. The card also has a proper backplate. It comes with a 6-pin PCI Express connector and has a physical overclock button as well. All of this shows that the card is aimed at overclocking and we will see how far we can push it later in the video. The GTX 1050 Ti has 768 cores, we have 4GB of DDR5 memory and a power consumption of around 75 watts. We will check out overclocking, thermals and fan noise soon, but let's dive straight into some performance results. The card is set to normal mode for these tests. The test system has an i7-2600, 16GB of RAM and a 256GB SSD. We're starting off with 3D Mark. We have two results here. The GTX 1050 is the orange line and the GT 1030 is the blue one, so we have a bit of a comparison. In CloudGate, we're getting 20,082. In Skydiver, we're getting 18,420. And in Firestrike, 6,585. Next up, we've got Crysis. All the games run at 1080p. Once again, we have two video cards, orange for the GTX 1050 Ti and blue for the GT 1030. So at low and medium details, there's not much of a difference, but once we go to high and very high, we can see a nice difference. Under high, 55 to 83 and under very high, 33 to 65. Next up, we've got Dirt 3. We can see some nice scaling. Here's the GTX 1050, 267 at ultra low, 218 at low, 200 at medium, 191 at high and 137 FPS at ultra. This is with 4x anti-aliasing as well. Next up we've got Tomb Raider. This is the older version from 2013. We have 288 FPS at low, 176 at medium, 122 at high and 94 at ultra. The next game is Bioshock Infinite. We're seeing 229 FPS at very low, 174 at low, 142 at medium, 123 at high, and 107 at very high. And still over 60 FPS, we're getting 97 FPS at ultra. In Metro 2033, the Redux version, 109 FPS at low, 97 at medium, 77 at high, and 45 at very high. So only the very high detail option runs at less than 60 FPS, but just use high, it looks almost just as nice. Next game is Rise of the Tomb Raider, 105 FPS at the lowest, 86 at low, 67 at medium, we got 58 at high and 48 at very high. So this is a game you should be comfortably able to play at 60 at medium or high details with around 60 FPS. And the last game, very demanding, Deus Ex Mankind Divided, 57 FPS at low, 45 at medium, 38 at high, 32 at very high, and 27 at ultra. So this is a game, you might have to be played at medium and high details, but you're not going to get 60 FPS. You can only get close to that figure in low details. Let's check out the boost clocks, temperatures, and fan speeds of this graphics card. Here we're running in stock mode and looping the Heaven benchmark for around 10 minutes. The card boosts to around 1721 MHz with a temperature of around 60 degrees and a fan speed of around 1250 RPM. With the overclock button engaged, the card boosts up to around 1810 MHz. The temperature is settling at around 61 degrees with the fan speed of around 1300 RPM. Next, I added 100 MHz on the core clock in MSI Afterburner, but also raised the power and temperature limits. Now it boosts up to 1898 MHz, the temperature is still around 61 degrees and the fan speed is still around 1300 RPM. Let's add another 50 MHz to the core and now we're boosting up to 1949 MHz with the temperature hitting 62 degrees and the fan speed still around 1300 RPM. 150 MHz overclock on the core was the highest I could go. At 175 and 200 the card would just crash. My last test is manually setting the fan speed to 100%. The card now boosts a little bit higher, 1962 is what we're getting, and the temperature drops around 10 degrees to 51 degrees. That was a lot of information, so here we have everything summarized in a table, and you can see how we almost got 2 GHz of boost clock out of this graphics card. The video memory also overclocked nicely. I was able to add 875 MHz in MSI Afterburner. So with all these overclocks applied, let's take a look at the before and after performance. Here we can see the results from our overclock. All the games run at 1080p and you can see the details here. Crysis improves a little bit from 65 to 67. Dirt 3 shows a nice improvement, 137 up to 154. Tomb Raider goes from 94 to 108. Bioshock Infinite improves from 97 to 108. We got Metro 2033 improving from 45 to 52. We've got Rise of the Tomb Raider from 58 to 67 and Deus Ex Mankind Divided improves from 38 to 44. So the cooling is pretty good, but what about the noise? First, let's check out the range of fan speeds that we can get. Manually set to 100%, MSI Afterburner reports around 2800 RPM. At 75%, around 2100 RPM. At 50%, we're getting 1400 RPM. And at 29%, which is the lowest setting available, we're getting around 800 RPM, which is the fan speed we are getting when the card is idle on the desktop. So it seems that the fans will operate between 800 and 2800 RPM. Here we have our test system and note that I have boosted the volume of the microphone so we can better hear the noise. The case fan runs at 8800 RPM, the cooler runs at 1600 RPM and I'm not sure about the power supply, but it's quieter than both of them. Next I will set the fan speed to 25, 50, 75 and 100% and we will see if we can hear the graphics card fans out of this machine. And now I stopped all the other fans, the microphone volume is identical to the previous test, so now we can hear only the video card. So all in all, the cooling system is really good. It keeps the card nice and cool and it's also very quiet. In most situations you won't hear it over the case and CPU fan, so to me the cooling is a real highlight of this video card. So let's wrap up this video. I really like this card. The cooler is powerful and quiet, it's got a backplate and the OC button is very convenient. We were able to overclock the card to a boost clock of almost 2 GHz. The RAM also overclocked nicely and we could definitely see a nice performance improvement. Compared to the GT 1030, most of the older games can be maxed out and easily run at well over 60 FPS. Modern games are more of a challenge, but the 4 GB of VRAM comes in handy and you should get a good experience at medium to high details. So you guys were right, this is a very decent video card and a good match to an older machine with an i5-2400 or i7-2600 processor. Make sure you got enough memory and you will be able to play a huge selection of older as well as modern games. And there you have it. Let me know if you have any questions or if there's anything you want me to look into. Also, let me know what do you think about the GTX 1050 Ti and also what do you think of Colorful as a brand. And thanks again to GearBest for providing us with this video card. Do check out their links down below in the description if you want to know more. And that's it for this video. As always, the usual YouTube stuff. Please subscribe if you haven't done so. click on the notification bell, hit the like or dislike button, share the video with your friends, and I shall see you soon with another one.